What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of the Dimes and Deadlines podcast. Kenny Morales here, alongside, as always, Asher Wildman. Asher, we usually record this earlier in the week. We had a bit of a schedule conflict. How's your Saturday morning treating you, buddy?
Hey, man, it's back to school shopping. Hey, also, crisis averted. Okay, first off, I don't know if I should name companies, but let's just say we went to the Bullseye thinking we could find Sky from Paw Patrol. Didn't work out that way. Apparently Paw Patrol has been replaced. Their clothing line apparel has been replaced by Bluey, who we're not big on in this household yet. So then we went to the coal mines to find it, like how I'm doing this brand awareness here. And then if it had a pink Sky from Paw Patrol on it, we bought it. We also now are the proud owners of Light Up Frozen Elsa and Anna shoes. Ooh. This is like epitome dad life right here, man.
Wow. She had incredible style for Betty. I love it.
We also bought an Encanto, a couple t-shirts of Encanto. Got to get Mirabelle and Luisa.
Jeez Louise, a little spending spree for the young one this morning.
You know, when it comes to Disney and these things, it's just...
Yeah, just constant money.
Are you back to school shopping, Kenny? I know you're a clothes guy.
No, I'm not back to school shopping yet for myself. No, we'll see. I buy clothes once in a blue moon. I really don't buy a whole lot. That's more Ashley than anyone else.
So you know what I love about this is the fact that you're wearing your white t-shirt today, which is pretty, and I'm sure you're wearing gym shorts.
I am, yes.
I've got a, if you can see really good, this is my Tua shirt.
Actually, I love that. That looks great.
And, you know, I got my white knee-high socks because that's, you know, that's what dads do. And look, Betty literally gave me this rainbow bracelet before we left today. I mean, hey, man.
You're styling, man.
Kenny, when you and I were in Tallahassee, never, and I mean this, never in my wildest dreams did I think this is what would happen to me. And I got news for you. It's going to happen to you. So just wait one day when you're ready. I'm not one of those people that's like, you got to have a kid tomorrow. No, when you're ready, you're ready.
It happens to everyone, though, right? Eventually, you transform to dad, full-on dad mode.
Full-on dad mode.
Like it. All right. Well, anyway, for today's episode, beyond just that, we decided we want to talk a little bit about something it could be very volatile, I think, at times. It could either go really good or really bad. Sometimes it's in the middle, but if you're in the industry, you know what I'm talking about. We're doing live shots today, and we've had a lot of them over the years, Asher. Some, like I said, some really great ones and some not really great ones, but ones that were definitely laugh out worthy, I would say. Laugh out loud. I'll let you start here. Do you want to go with your best live shot or your worst live shot?
So, you know, it's funny because I know where you're going to go with this. I got to be honest with you. I haven't had like catastrophes. Like, I'll be honest, like I haven't had like Kenny had a catastrophe, which we're going to get to, which I was the proud person of tossing to.
Yeah,
I couldn't hold it together.
That's the best part about mine is that you got to be involved with it.
But I did have, it's funny, when I was sent to Brooklyn to cover the ACC tournament for basketball.
Yep, I remember that.
Little did I know that what's the best way to put this? Well, is this thing rated PG or PG-13 or what do I say?
It's like PG-13. You could use PG-13. You could curse if you'd like.
No, okay. Well, we got the flash show behind me. Lady was, you know, she had her brassiere on. However, anything happens in New York, I suppose. And here I was on a good old family 5 o'clock newscast talking about the importance of tonight's game. And the woman wanted to say she wanted to apply for Hooters one day, I guess. I don't know. And you know, the funny part about all this is like, I don't see what's happening behind me. People like, I have honestly, I probably got about a 165-degree view of everything. But what's happening behind me, I got no clue.
No, that's why we always hear reporters talk about it. Like when they're on live shots, like please don't bother us in the middle of a live shot. We have no idea what's going on behind us. We really don't. Our full 100% focus is on getting our script out and just trying to put together a good live shot. That's it.
Well, so I'd say, so that one was, you know, that was, and of course, you know, it's so funny because, of course, I'm looking this way.
Right.
And then the boss calls and says, how do you not know what's happening behind you? And that's one of those things where you go, do I really need to answer that?
Come on now.
You know, now I was with a camera person that night. So kind of frustrated. They did not notice.
Yeah, that would fall on the cameraman, though, not you.
Correct. Other than that, you know, the other thing I remember, Kenny, is like when I was So when we were at UCF, or at least when I was, I don't know when you were at UCF if you were able to do live shots in the field.
No, we were not.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of an important thing to learn, I would say, especially when you're in
Absolutely.
sports, because when you're doing sports, a lot of times they want you to do highlights from the field.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That was so hard.
Yeah. And the first time I ever did it, because again, never had the opportunity to do it in school, which is where I was learning from. I'll never forget the first one. I said, all right, now here comes, and I think the kid's name was Felix Obi. He was a wide receiver or something from UTEP. It was a spring practice. And I go, here comes his first catch. And then you're just waiting. And then you're just waiting. And then I'm like, no, here comes Felix now on this play. This is the one. and the truth is, after that, the boss was like, well, why didn't you have the monitor there to watch it? And then I had the monitor to watch it. But then you had to learn there's also like a 3 to 5 second delay.
Yeah.
From what is happening live to what you're being cued. So, I mean, it's a damn hard craft to master, doing live highlights in the field. It's not, it's one thing to do them in studio, piece of cake, because you're seeing everything instantaneously.
For sure.
But when you're in the field, I gotta tell you, that for me was probably the most awkward thing to learn on the fly, because again, we didn't get the chance to learn that at school.
Yeah, no, UCF started doing that a couple years after I left. I remember seeing like they were messing around with, experimenting, doing live shots, like not like crazy far away, but like somewhere on campus, a couple, not a couple steps away from the communications building.
Did they have TVUs there? What were they using?
I don't know what they were using, but I just remember I would watch, I think they call it nightly news. I don't know if it's still called that. And they had, the report around the field with a little live bug in the corner. And it looked like it was live. There was a delay and everything. I don't know what they were using, but yeah, they were somewhere on campus, somewhat close to the shout out the Nicholson School of Communication.
I think, I think the funny thing is, I think it's interesting that, when you're doing news, it's a lot of show and tell. You're not tossing anything other than your package or VO that's going to come up on the fly. When you're doing sports, though, you're doing live highlights. You're doing play-by-play for something that's already happened, for a script that you wrote. And if you don't match the timing with the director, it could be going like this, not like this.
Yeah.
And that I think was a real big learning curve for me, because they don't teach you that one in school.
No, they don't. So for me, I think
Which one are you going to pick? Which one are you going to pick?
I have two that I go to usually for the bad live shots. The one that you thought of immediately was the first one that came to mind. This was in Tallahassee. I think this was an all-star football game that I was covering. It was like we in Tallahassee, it's very close to the border. So South Georgia was part of our coverage area as well. And it was some all-star game where like the best football players in South Georgia played the best football players in North Florida. And I was going to practice and I was trying to interview the quarterback. And so I'm getting ready to go live. Like I'm like maybe 20, 30 seconds away from the live shot. And all of a sudden, that's just like what Ash is doing right now. I'm watching. I'm like, what is he doing? I'm like, oh, that's okay. It's a callback. Oh, very nice. That's exactly what happened for those who are listening over the podcast audibly. I just noticed as I'm doing the live shot, literally as they're like, okay, cue, my tripod starts to slip just ever so slightly. And I realized, oh no, I have the bad tripod, which everyone knew at Tally, like at our station, there was one tripod that you could use if you were ready to hold it, but if you couldn't leave it alone because it was loose. And so as I'm interviewing the quarterback, I just see the camera start to slowly
tilt down.
And literally I have to catch it as I'm interviewing this kid. And thankfully the kid is nice enough to help me catch it and pull it back up. And it's just so funny because I got to find it's still on like CTV's Facebook. I think you got to see it. Like my toss back to Asher, who's in studio, by the way, he tossed it to me. I toss it back to him and literally I'm like this. And I have a mic. I'm holding the camera and I'm like, yeah, okay. Thanks, Chase. Why don't you head back out there? We'll send it back to studio.
What you got to understand, what makes it so priceless, is that Kenny just kept rolling with it. He's holding his hand is on like the lens, trying to hold the camera up the best he can without blocking the lens. Then he's got this like microphone, like up here in the sky, hoping the kid's mouth is somewhere near it. And the whole time, Kenny is just like shaking his head, knowing this is the most awkward situation I've ever could have found myself in. But I got to tell you, man, you laughed at it. We laughed at it. I mean, what else are you going to do, right? I mean,
no, there's nothing else you can do.
It is what it is.
In those kind of situations is just laugh it off. The audience is laughing. Just try to laugh at yourself a little bit. You have to be able to, not have an ego and just laugh a little bit. Mistakes happen.
But the funny thing is, though, it's not really a mistake. We all knew that tripod does have the tendency to be a ghost and kind of tilt like it did.
Yeah.
But the way that you caught it, which was the most impressive, because that would have been bad if you didn't catch the camera.
Catch it. Yeah, that would have been really
and
bad.
Some people who are probably watching this are like, well, why didn't Kenny have a cameraman? Well, newsflash, a lot of times before recent events in local television, and a lot of stations now, I will say kudos to them, have said from now on we will have manned or
have
woman.
They changed it?
Some companies, some stations. I think it depends on staff. I think it depends on where you are. I do know some stations are now double or tag team and MMJs so that nobody's alone out there.
That's nice.
Because I mean, look, there's some crazy things that have happened doing
live shots by yourself.
Your own live shot. I mean, first off, again, you can't control who's behind you or what's happening behind you.
Right.
I can't tell you how aggravated I get when I see an article come out where a female reporter's in the field on her own.
That's
and
crazy.
A lot of times it's covering a 5K and some clown grabs her ass thinking that's funny and cool.
Right.
And what people probably don't realize is that I'm willing to bet 9 out of 10 times that reporter or MMJ didn't have a camera person to give her a heads up.
No, definitely not. No, it's hard because you're not only focused on what you're trying to do, deliver a good live shot. You are also worried about the connection to the TVU. Does the shot look good? You're listening because you're playing photographer as well. Your director's going to tell you, or your producer, hey, you're a little hot there. Let's turn the mic down. Or hey, it's really, really bright. Can you iris down a little bit? And
it's nobody runs into the camera.
Or somebody runs into the camera. God forbid. There's a lot to do when you're MMJing all by itself. Then on top of that, live MMJing. That's crazy. And then the other one that was crazy for me was when I went to Omaha. And I had I went live outside the ballpark there for the College World Series. FSU was in it. I think this was 18 or 17. And I got the classic. This is popular years ago, not so much now. But some dude he went by in a car and he screamed out at the top of his lungs. And it was I was right by the road. So they could very clearly hear it on air. F her right in the Oh. And so that one, I had to bite my lip a little bit, because it kind of made me laugh because I'd never had that happen. I'd only seen it happen. So on air, on Twitter and stuff like that.
Actually, I do have a funny one. This is a good story to share because this one involved you too. This was another toss to Kenny. This one I can't believe you bring up, speaking of live television. So Kenny had to go cover fall training camp for FSU. And for those of you that realize the heat wave we're experiencing right now in Florida.
I remember this.
Okay. It was probably people understand humidity in Florida. This isn't a surprise. However, when the sun is blaring on you because there's no shade, there are instances, and we've seen it especially the last month, where you walk outside and it's not even a matter of if, it's literally a countdown of 10 seconds till you're going to start sweating.
Yep.
So I want everybody to close your eyes as you're hopefully if you're not driving. Imagine Shaquille O'Neal in the third quarter of a basketball game, maybe the fourth quarter at the free throw line. And I just want you to picture all those sweat droplets just coming down one by one by one. It looks like he was in a sauna, for crying out loud. That was Kenny at a Florida State football game. But what makes this story so great, okay, his shirt looks like he jumped out of a swimming pool. Keep in mind, there was a spare shirt in the car that rather than Kenny change into, Kenny decided to use as a sweat rag to wipe his face on air. So rather than put on the polo, a fresh polo, he decides, let me just get my face with this clean shirt.
I don't know what my thought process was then. It wasn't very good. I'd like to think I would make a better decision now. But at the time, I think I was just so stressed out. I didn't even think about it. I was just so uncomfortably hot.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I hate it. I think it was after that experience, I never wore nice clothes again if it was hot outside for a live shot. I was always I was like, no, I'm going to wear polo. I'm going to wear polo and shorts. It's 100 degrees out. Kudos to the news reporters because I had several of them when I was at Spectrum that would still wear black suits outside in 100-degree weather. Don't know how you do it, but props to y'all.
So I know. Again, when I say the big uncle to Kenny, I go, Kenny, nephew, there was a clean shirt there you could have put on. Why'd you use it as a sweat towel? You could have just put the shirt on.
I don't know why that was the first. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Was, I need something to wipe the sweat off. Oh, there we go.
On air, he does that too, folks.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a fun one I had. So I actually had a lot of fun ones because let's face it, Kenny, I like doing stand-ups. I like doing things in the field. I'm a creative. I did a thing with my dog for a number of years. But my favorite one, my honest to God favorite one, I was in El Paso, and this boxer, this heavyweight boxer, David Rodriguez, who years ago had been attacked in New York City just on a tourist visit. Somebody like cut his neck. He was making this big giant comeback in the world of boxing. I told my bosses, hey, let's go live on fight night from his fight. Because if the timing had worked out, we would see the end of the fight or right at the fight, or I could at least interview him after highlights. We could do a live interview on his comeback, live on air. Nobody ever done this before. I put a tuxedo on. I really looked the part for Friday night fight night, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, in boxing, nothing starts on time. And his fight got pushed back, not only late, but like literally started at the beginning of my sportscast. And here's what was so crazy. I was doing a leaderboard of the Open Championship. It was the second or third. It had to be second round. It was Friday. So I'm doing this leaderboard of the Open Championship. Here I'm in my tuxedo. The fight's going on behind me. All of a sudden, I turned around. I go, holy crap, David Rodriguez, the guy who staged this whole thing, the comeback, the fight night, he's getting the crap knocked out of him in his hometown at his own event. So all of a sudden, I had all these other highlights or stories to do. I literally just took my papers. I threw them on the ground. I go, we got to get to the ring. As soon as I say that, now you got to understand this. This guy that he hired, Kenny, in boxing, was what you call a filler. Like he's there to take the loss because this is the comeback. It's your hometown. You want to win. And live on air, David Rodriguez goes knocked down. He gets knocked out for the second time in the first round. And if you get knocked out 3 times in a round, that's it. TKO. So I go, we got to get back to the ring. Oh my God, David Rodriguez is down. David Rodriguez. Then I go, he's down again. And then he gets up and I go, he looks lost. He looks out of shape on David Rodriguez's comeback. This is happening in his hometown. And then I go, boom, he's down again. He's down again. Rodriguez is down again. And what's so crazy, it was like a minute 47 in, and I'm trying to figure out what's happening because this one guy, I think I missed the first knockdown because I was in my sportscast. So I saw number 2, obviously, and I saw number 3. All of a sudden, I go, wait a minute, people are coming. I go, did they call it? Did they call it? Because I'm, again, also about probably 100 feet from the ring.
Right.
I go, they did. Oh, my God, David Rodriguez on his comeback just got TKO'd on live television. And I got to tell you, our phones at the station blew up.
Really?
Twitter was blowing up. They're like, I just saw David Rodriguez get TKO'd on live television. And
That's
dude, this
awesome.
is local news.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so to me, that was the coolest live shot that I ever just dumb lucked into because the whole purpose was to have this ceremonial interview with the highlights talking about his comeback. And instead, the local hero got the freaking piss knocked out of him on live television in his hometown.
That's perfect. You couldn't ask for a better live shot, though, a better setup. That's perfect.
Oh, and again, and here's the funny part. Again, I'm in a tuxedo. Right. So that's
God. So I can picture it.
Yeah, and that I have on Vimeo somewhere. But Kenny, that to me was for me the funnest one. And you know, I did things with my dogs for high school football.
Those are great.
But to have that on live television, and I mean, it was something that was talked about for weeks.
Right.
And the worst part was, you know, because here's the other thing people don't probably realize about sports. When you cover a late night event or you do something late, you always got to leave something for the morning. So then I had to interview him an hour after his fight. And he tells everybody, if I got to lose to scrubs like this, I'm retiring. So then in the morning, you had breaking news because obviously no local news is airing this. At this point, it was probably about midnight when we got the interviews with him. So I go, holy crap, he just announced he's retiring after getting humiliated. So there were a couple other stations there, obviously. So then it was, of course, and then here's the other thing people probably don't know. You got to post to the web. Got to get that web story up. So everybody probably had a version of this online at 1 a.m. And by that point, no one's reading this thing. So then at the next morning, we had this quote unquote breaking news after his fight live on our station, KVIA. Now he's retiring with the 2 sports guys that were still there that late at night.
That's funny. That's crazy.
Crazy. But that was fun.
What's the funny? I think one of my favorite ones was yours in Tally. It was one of the first things I saw you do a live shot.
Oh no.
And it was like, it kind of gave me a preview. I was like, oh, this is the kind of guy I'm working with, huh? Damn, he is really creative. You did some live shot. I think it was with a weightlifting team or a football team. I don't know. It was some high school kid that was absolutely huge. There was a monster of a child.
Yeah.
And he was doing push-ups and you sat on him. And
Yeah.
he continued to do the push-ups and you like asked him, like, how you doing down there, buddy? He's like, I'm doing all right, Asher. He just kept doing push-ups.
Zach Sprinkle from Madison County.
Madison County. There you go. He
Yep.
was a wrestler maybe or something. I don't remember.
He was a wrestler and he was a high school football player. He was a center. He was a small kid. Like when I say small, like short. He was about 5'7", 5'8". He was a short.
Yeah.
But his shoulders, I mean, they were as wide as a Cadillac
He
trunk.
looked
I mean,
massive.
He was huge that way.
Yeah. That was really, really funny.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I think sometimes you just gotta, how do you put it? You're always told that people lose an interest when sports comes on, right? Like whether it's consultants or the producers or whoever it is, they're like, people typically tune out in sports. And I think my whole philosophy was always, damn it, I'm going to pull you back in to care about this for the last 3 minutes before Jeopardy comes on.
Give them a reason to care, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't fun. I'm trying to think if there was all right. So here's you know what? There's another one you got to tell though. And this one I think was my proudest moment of Kenny. And I mean this. I could not believe now we've already talked about him losing a camera, holding a camera, holding this little microphone up in the air with this little, but there was another one, and I'll let you tell it, when you did the one with Valdosta at the state championship, where you had to control 60 teenage boys after a win.
Yeah. So I went up to, I think this is after the Georgia Dome was already closed. And so Mercedes-Benz, the new one, opened up, and then they hosted the high school football state championships for Georgia. And one of our local teams, Valdosta, was up there, and I think they were undefeated, and they ended up winning the whole thing. And they finished, the perfect season. And originally I was like, oh, I'll grab, the coach and maybe a player or two and do the normal live shot or whatever. But there was also, other stations there. And I was like, I want to do something different. Like, I want to be better. I want this to be the best thing. This is one of the best teams in the country, Valdosta.
Title town.
At this point. Yeah. And so I was really cool with the coach, Rodemaker. Shout out Coach Rodemaker. I was like, hey, coach, what do you think about me going live in the locker room with you guys? Like, obviously, like, stop the kids from changing or whatever. I'll go live with you, and we'll give the kids their 5 or 10 second moment to just absolutely freak out. And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And so that was the hardest part, honestly. Getting the kids to do it was so easy. I literally just went in there, and coach just blew his whistle. I was like, hey, everybody listen up. We're going to be on TV. You listen to Kenny here. And so I just told him, I was like, hey guys, the camera's right here. Everyone go behind me. You're going to hear me go, hey, Asher, that's right. Yada, yada, yada. I'm here with, and as soon as I say, Valdosta Wildcats, your 2017 or whatever year was champion, I want you guys to go ballistic. Absolutely lose it. Start dancing, show your teeth, do whatever, but only do that for 5 or 10 seconds. And then so they did exactly like that. And I was eventually like, all right. Everybody calm down. Got Coach Rodemaker in to do the 2 or 3 questions. But that was a lot of fun. And I got the messages from you saying that I looked awesome. Great job. And that was one of my happiest moments too, because I enjoy, a nice compliment here and there. And then I just remember celebrating with my friends afterwards in Atlanta.
The only thing, Kenny, I'll say about local sports, it's funny. In smaller markets, right, you can get away with a lot more and you can do a lot more. And the funny thing, though, is what I don't understand, and I've never understood this, is that that kind of stuff just doesn't work in large markets. And I don't get it. No. Maybe it's because it's just everybody knows everybody in smaller towns and they want to see each other's kids. But to me, a win is a win, right? And coverage areas obviously are big, small, whatever. But I just never understood why in larger markets, the fun has to kind of disappear.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a thing, isn't it? I feel like I do agree with you on that. You find people with shtick or creative live shots or anything, they're kind of limited to smaller medium markets. I don't see that a lot in large markets. It's sort of a lot of them are very cookie cutter. They're all the same, different.
I don't get it. Never did. And I like to be different, right? And we're speaking sports specifically. I can't even tell you whether it was when I was living in South Florida or living in Central Florida, the last time a local sportscaster did something live on air that was unique, different, and was like, wow, I'm going to care about this versus just being somewhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just, you can, what you did, you cannot probably do in Orlando and get the reaction. You just
No, I
can't.
don't think
I don't
so.
get it.
Same thing here in Tampa. No, I would agree. But all right, we'll transition now. We'll do our sports talk here. And I figured why not? It's the number one topic, right? College football. Well, college athletics, I guess, as a whole. But
Yeah.
Asher, the landscape of college athletics is, I mean, it changes every 24 hours now, but it looks a hell of a lot different now than it did literally 2 days ago. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing right now with the Big Ten adding Oregon and Washington, the Big 12 adding the four corner schools, and the Pac-12 essentially? I mean, there's still four schools there, but I would assume it just goes away. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, the NCAA, Kenny, I really believe whatever backbone they had, they lost years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just stop kidding ourselves. There is no such thing as amateur sports anymore. This
No,
is
these are
all a
pros.
business. This is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we'll talk about NIL probably on another show, which is also the death of college athletics. But it's funny. I did an interview years ago with Jim Darnell, who at the time was Johnny Manziel's attorney. This was probably in 2013. This was when Johnny was trying to go through all his eligibility stuff, when he was signing autographs to Texas A&M. And he said the SEC will become its own football league. And, you know, again, this was 2013, 2014, thinking and saying, well, this guy's freaking nuts. It's college football. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
SEC's doing their thing. The Big Ten is doing their thing. And what's the NCAA doing? They don't say, no, you can't do this. They don't say, no, you can't steal teams from other conferences. And if this is all, like, if the SEC, and this is what blows my mind, Kenny, if the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the Big 12, if they're all part of the NCAA, then why can't the NCAA say, no, you can't do this?
I don't know.
No backbone.
Nothing at all. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just a start. I feel like the ACC is next. I mean, now we've heard Florida State kind of, pump up their chest a little bit and say, hey, we want more money. If you don't give us more money, we're out of here.
I have an idea how to save the ACC.
You do?
I have an idea.
How do you save it?
All right. And seriously, this all contingent on one thing. And I'll tell you that the step-by-steps, all contingent on one thing. Mm-hmm. You got to get Notre Dame to commit to joining the ACC for football.
They won't do it.
They do it for everything. But here we go. But let me take you down the road now. Mm-hmm. It's all about money. It's all about getting the most money. Okay. Notre Dame has one thing that every school dreams of. That's an exclusive contract with NBC. Yep. They also, for whatever reason, are allowed to just carry on with football and disregard all other sports, which are in the ACC. All right. If I'm in Notre Dame, I'm going to say to the ACC, you need me more than I need you. So here's what we're going to do. If they can get Notre Dame to commit to this, which again, this is just an idea. Hell, it's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. You rip up the current grant of rights for ACC. And Notre Dame comes to the ACC with split between ESPN and NBC. ACC commits to Thursday night football to compete with Amazon. Okay, you got your college game. You put your Thursday night ACC game on. You also have a Friday night game because nobody really watches Friday nights. So you put a Friday night game on. Then you also have your slate of Saturday or Saturday NBC or Saturday ESPN ACC network. And you guarantee that Notre Dame will always be the primetime 3:30 or 8 o'clock game. Okay. But here's why it works too. NBC then also gets a little taste of college basketball, which at the end of the day is what every major network wants, is March Madness. So now you're up to 14 teams. You invite UConn back into the ACC because now you got to think basketball.
Yep.
You got Notre Dame, you invite UConn, you bring in Tulane, and you bring in Temple. The reason I know they're not the most sexiest for football, but for basketball and big-time markets, you get Philly, you get New Orleans, you get UConn, which is always damn good, and, of course, Notre Dame. Then, if you want 20 teams, you poach SMU and Iowa State. But, again, none of this matters unless Notre Dame is willing to get a bigger pot of gold than they already have by bringing in NBC with ESPN to partnering up and having the ACC network on NBC Sports to also have college basketball.
Yeah. That's the thing that now that Brett Yormark, the commissioner for the Big 12, he's like the one commissioner out there that's like, no, I like basketball too. We can grow with basketball. And so like that, some of the teams that have schools that are supposedly, being flown out there as possible expansion schools for the Big 12, I think UConn and Gonzaga as well.
So Kenny, I mean, no disrespect to smaller schools, right? But on Thursday night, do I really need to watch East Carolina Marshall Whereas on a Thursday night, would you watch maybe Boston College take on Georgia Tech?
I would consider it.
Friday night, would you watch maybe Virginia versus Virginia Tech? I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, no. I don't know. In my opinion, I think the ACC, if FSU leaves and like Clemson and those Magnificent Seven, Miami and whoever else it was, then I think the ACC goes the way of the Pac-12. And then I think the leftovers, I think those seven, they split up between the Big Ten and the SEC. And then I think the remaining ACC schools like the Louisvilles and Pittsburghs of the world, I think maybe they go to the Big 12 or something. I don't know. There's nothing else for them to go to.
But think of this. You could have a Saturday slate. The way CBS has it, right? They monopolize the SEC. They get all the, it doesn't matter who's in the SEC. They can market and sell it. Oh, we're going to have Kentucky versus Ole Miss today. We're going to have Mississippi State versus Arkansas. Whereas if you were NBC and you could line up FSU, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, those four on a Saturday slate, okay, that's a damn good sell to have in your back pocket. But then, more importantly, how about having North Carolina, Duke, Virginia for basketball with UConn on a Saturday and have your Saturday NBC slate? That's why, it's so funny. We keep talking about how this is all about money. Well, yeah, it is. It's all about money.
100%.
NBC, if they wanted to do this, could do it with Notre Dame. And if Notre Dame were to do this, that's how all these other schools could get a boatload more money.
I just think, we've talked about it before in the other podcast, but like as UCF alums, I think it's insane to think about where UCF was and now thinking about UCF basketball. They will regularly compete against Kansas and Arizona.
We're not talking Lipscomb and Campbell, are we?
No, we are not. The two of the blue bloods. And look, I hope UCF basketball finds a way to find some more sustained success. I know they had the one good year with Dawkins and Taco Fall and all that, but it's going to be tough in the new Big 12. They might be a little bit of a punching bag.
So, the other fascinating thing is Florida State possibly taking out a loan to get out of the ACC, but knowing they'll make the money back if they were to join the SEC or Big Ten. So, and again, Kay, that's why I say the NCAA, where are you? You're a joke. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why would you allow this to happen? You have no control, but you're more concerned over a kid having a dinner with a coach over an NIL deal than you are about schools profiting more money in a system that you supposedly oversee, and you don't do a damn thing about it. I'm sorry. I've lost so much respect for the NCAA. There's no such thing as amateur sports anymore unless you're a kid on the cross country team. God bless you.
Yeah. That's who I feel the worst for is the student athletes of Olympic sports. Like ones your volleyball players, your lacrosse players, your whatever. Because now, like if you're in a UCLA, USC, Oregon, whatever, you're traveling cross country to Rutgers to Piscataway, Jersey.
For field hockey.
Yeah, come on now. Like, I don't know how that's going to work for them, but geez. Anyway, all right. We're running out of time here. That'll do it for us today on episode 3 of the Dimes Deadlines podcast. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we'll talk about, but we'll talk about another great topic as we always do. See you guys later.